The MX Master line has long been the gold standard for productivity mice. I've been holding on to the 2S for a while now and haven't felt the need to upgrade, but was interested to see what Logitech had to offer with their new MX Master 3S. After having over a month to use it in my workflow, I can say right off the bat that this is easily one of the best productivity mice out right now. As it is just an S version, it's going to have a lot in common with the MX Master 3, and if you're on that mouse currently, the upgrades made probably won't be enough to convince you to buy, but are still welcomed nonetheless. The two major changes Logitech brought to the table are the new 8000 DPI sensor, up from 4000, and the much quieter but less tactile mouse switches. Unboxing the mouse in this pale gray color, the name is an accurate description, but I was a little disappointed that it didn't look quite as white as the photos shown on the website. That said, it still looks clean and complements my setup very nicely. Instead of the old unifying receiver, we're given the Logitech Bolt receiver, which aside from the marketed security benefits that prevent hacking, I haven't noticed it feeling any different from the dongle I had with my 2S. What's disappointing to see is that there's still no place in the mouse where you can store the receiver when it's not in use. On the outside, it's identical to its predecessor. It has the same dimensions, coming in at 4.92 inches tall, 3.32 inches wide, and 2 inches deep. Throwing it on the scale, it weighs a chunky 142.5 grams, which is a slight reduction from the 150.5 gram 2S, but again, the same as the 3. So long as you aren't left-handed, this mouse is extremely comfortable for long working hours with its ergonomic shape. The rubber body feels nice in hand, and the weight it has makes for a premium feel. The construction of it is fantastic and unlike anything else you're going to find. The mouse will work on pretty much any surface, even glass, and the feet allow it to glide very smooth. Using atop my gaming mousepad, I feel like I have a lot of control over it, which makes my editing process go so much smoother. I do, however, find the thumb gesture button to be a little awkward to press when comparing it to the older 2S, as that had a more firm click. There's a tab that you can feel to know where the button is, but pressing on it has a very mushy feel. The placement and texture of the two side buttons took some getting used to, but now that I've daily drove the mouse for over an entire month, I have no issues with them. The side scroll wheel is probably my favorite feature, and I love its larger protruding profile, but still, I do think it's a bit awkward to use because your finger's going to brush up against the rubber before ever doing a full scroll. The main scroll wheel has the same silver construction, which looks and feels really premium. With infinite scroll, you can flick the mouse wheel to scroll up to 1000 lines in a single second, which can be really useful if you're navigating a large code base or trying to skim through an article. To program all the buttons, you'll need to download a new piece of software, Logi Options Plus. I still don't understand why Logitech can't just combine all the peripheral apps into one, or at least just update the original Logi Options, because other than a UI design change, it functions the exact same. Once you've paired the mouse via Bluetooth or the Logitech Bolt receiver, you'll be able to go in and map the buttons to your preferred action. You can set them on a global but also per application basis. So for example, in Chrome, I use the side buttons to go forward and back in pages, and then the side scroll wheel navigates between tabs. But in Final Cut, I use these side buttons to add a marker and quickly delete clip selections, then navigate the timeline using the side scroll wheel. I like the gesture button just to quickly open up mission control, but you can obviously perform gestures to go between different desktops quickly, which can be very useful when in the middle of an edit and I'm full screened into Final Cut. Changing to the point and scroll tab, you'll see there's a few options associated with the scroll wheel. You can change the speed of the scroll as well as the direction, but most important I think is enabling Smart Shift. You can change from scrolling one line at a time to multiple just by flicking the wheel rather than having a separate button to switch that. The 8000 DPI sensor feels extremely responsive, but for day-to-day work, I don't think that the 4000 DPI jump is going to feel any smoother. In Logi Options Plus, make sure to click on the pointer speed, then extend the sensor range to 8K. This way you can actually see the DPI speed you're at. I found it very annoying to use the 2S because I had to guess where my DPI was at to match the gaming mice that I was so used to using. The main reason I'm unimpressed with the sensor as being an upgrade is because the polling rate is still stuck at 125 Hz. While it's not the intended purpose, it makes gaming pretty much unplayable with how laggy it can feel, and even just at the desktop, being on a 160 Hz monitor, the mouse can feel very sluggish at times. I see no reason that the polling rate shouldn't be increased to at least 500 Hz because it would make a significant difference to how responsive it feels, and being someone who games with an 1000 Hz mouse, I do notice the difference. The battery life of the mouse is a huge selling point, with it feeling nearly infinite, and increasing the polling rate would reduce it significantly, but for me, that's a trade-off I'm happy with, especially with how convenient it is to charge with the USB-C cable. At 125 Hz on a full charge, it's rated for 70 days of battery life, and just a minute charge will net you 3 hours of use, so you shouldn't ever need to worry about it dying on you. The most important difference with the mouse though is the new switches, which are crazy silent. These These are perfect if you're in an office setting where you don't want to be making a lot of noise clicking, but I do find it kind of ironic that it was launched alongside some mechanical keyboards. While I'm personally a big fan of these new switches, there's definitely a trade-off as they no longer have a tactile feel to them. For gaming, I really like to have that feedback for my clicks, but don't feel the same need for work, though can admit that they do have a more mushy feel to them. If you're looking to buy this mouse, this is the #1 thing I think you should consider because you will notice it with day-to-day use. They've grown on me a lot since I first started using the mouse, but they're not for everyone. I recommend using the mouse exclusively over the Bolt receiver because I've had a lot of stability issues with Bluetooth, but also it's so simple to use because once you plug the dongle into your computer, you're ready to go. Though the one advantage I do see to using Bluetooth is there's 3 different profiles on the mouse you can connect to and easily swap between just by pressing the button at the bottom. In my case, I have profile 1 set to my Mac, 2 to my custom PC, and 3 to the Bolt dongle. If you're like me and use both a Mac and Windows machine in your workflow, Logiflow might actually be a really neat feature. I've never used it more than a few times, but I can definitely see where it's useful as you can move your cursor and copy paste using the same set of peripherals for both machines. With the MX Master 3S, Logitech made what was already a great mouse even better. The upgrades overall are pretty minor, but I think the main factor to consider if you're in the market is the switches. They're dead silent, but don't have a tactile feel like many other mice do, so you need to ask yourself whether this is something you care about. With its ergonomic shape and rubber texture, it'll stay extremely comfortable for long working hours, and the various buttons allow you to add quick actions to make your workflow more efficient. I still think that a higher polling rate is a much needed upgrade that I hope to see in the MX Master 4, but for now, this is truly one of the best options out there. So let me know your thoughts on this guy, and if you will be picking it up, whether you're coming from an older MX Master or a different mouse entirely. But with that said, I've been Cole, and I appreciate you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.